You've probably got points sitting somewhere right now. Maybe it's your credit card. Maybe it's a hotel app you downloaded 2 years ago and barely use. Maybe it's an airline account with miles you've been meaning to redeem, but never quite got around to it. And here's what nobody ever told you about those points. They are worth more than the company that gave them to you. I'll say that again, slowly, because it sounds wrong the first time you hear it. The miles sitting in your American Airlines account and the accounts of 150 million other people just like you are collectively worth somewhere between $19 and $31 billion. The entire American Airlines company, the planes, the routes, the terminals, the brand, everything, is worth about $7 billion on the stock market. Think about that for a second. The reward they gave you, the flying with them, is worth 4 times more than the company itself. That's not a glitch. That's not an accident. That's the story. And it starts with one man in 1981 who thought he was building a loyalty program and accidentally built something the world had never seen before. Something that would one day become the most valuable thing American Airlines owns. Something so powerful that when the company was on the edge of collapse during the pandemic, they didn't put up their planes as collateral. They put up the points. The US government looked at those miles, those things you earn when you book a flight or swipe a credit card, and said, yes, that's real money. We'll take that. Stay with me, because what I'm about to show you isn't just about an airline. There's a type of person who sees the world differently. Not better, not worse, just differently. Bob Crandall was that type of person. He didn't look like a visionary. He looked like an accountant who hadn't slept in 3 days. Intense, impatient, the kind of man who would remove a single olive from every first-class salad. Not as a joke, not as a test, but because he calculated it would save the company $40,000 a year. And he was right. That's who built the most powerful financial instrument in the history of commercial aviation. May the 1st, 1981, American Airlines launches the AAdvantage program, the first modern frequent flyer program in the world. The press covered it like a marketing gimmick, a nice little loyalty play. Fly with us, collect some miles, maybe get a free ticket someday. Nobody understood what had actually just happened. Within 48 hours, United launched Mileage Plus. Delta followed. Every major carrier scrambled to copy what Crandall had built. Not because they fully understood it, but because they were afraid of what would happen if they didn't. Here's what they didn't understand yet. Crandall hadn't built a reward program. He had built a currency. Think about what a currency actually is. It's a unit of value that people trust enough to hold, to save, to trade. The dollar works because enough people believe it works. Gold works because people decided, centuries ago, that it works. There's nothing magical about either of them. They work because of collective belief and institutional backing. Now think about miles. You earn them, you save them, you plan around them, you check your balance. You feel something when the number goes up, and something different when it goes down. You've had conversations with your partner about whether to spend them now or wait. You've made travel decisions, real decisions with real consequences, based on a number in an app. That's not a reward. That's a currency behavior, and Crandall built the infrastructure for it before most people had a personal computer. But here's where the story gets complicated, and this is the part that almost never gets told. When American Airlines gave you miles, they were making a promise, a deferred promise. They were saying, "We owe you something." That something lives on their balance sheet as a liability. Every mile issued is a debt, a small one, but multiplied across 115 million accounts over 4 decades, it becomes one of the most unusual financial structures in the world. A company that profits by going into debt to its own customers, and the customers don't just accept it, they chase it. They apply for credit cards specifically designed to feed more miles into that system. They choose hotels, rental cars, restaurants, not based on preference, but based on which option gives them more units of a currency that an airline invented in 1981 to fill empty seats. Think about the distance between what it started as and what it became. Crandall wanted to fill empty seats on slow travel days. That was the original problem. Planes were flying half empty. The inventory was perishable. An empty seat at takeoff is revenue lost forever. So he created an incentive to redistribute demand, to move flexible travelers toward off-peak flights by giving them something that felt valuable, but cost the airline almost nothing to produce. A mile in 1981 was worth the marginal cost of one seat on an underbooked flight. In 2020, the US government decided that the entire ecosystem of those miles, the program, the partnerships, the credit card relationships, the data, was worth up to $31.5 billion. That's not inflation. That's transformation. Something small, practical, and almost cynical became something that people structure their financial lives around. Something that banks pay billions of dollars to be connected to. Something that a government accepted as collateral for a multi-billion-dollar loan. Crandall left American Airlines in 1998. He didn't see any of this coming, not in its full form. He was already gone when the program became the company's most valuable asset. He was already gone when the miles became worth more than the planes. There's something quietly devastating about that. The man who accidentally invented a new form of money never got to see how far it traveled. And the company that inherited what he built, they almost lost everything, twice. But both times the thing that saved them wasn't their fleet, wasn't their routes, wasn't their brand. It was the points. Let me tell you about a specific moment in time. March 2020. The world stopped. And when the world stops, the first thing that stops with it is travel. In a matter of weeks, American Airlines went from operating nearly 7,000 flights a day to flying planes that were almost empty. Not because of a bad decision, not because of a scandal, not because someone miscalculated. The demand simply vanished overnight, like someone reached up and turned off a switch that nobody knew existed. The revenue didn't slow down, it collapsed. American Airlines was losing roughly $70 million every single day. Read that again. Every single day. Now here's something that most people never think about when they picture an airline in crisis. They imagine the planes parked on a runway somewhere. They imagine pilots without flights. They imagine empty terminals. What they don't imagine is the accounting. Because here's what was sitting on American Airlines' balance sheet when the pandemic hit. They had a debt load that was already enormous before a single flight was grounded. Years of expansion, years of acquisitions, years of buying planes they hadn't finished paying for. The pandemic didn't create the fragility, it revealed it. And somewhere in the middle of all of this, somewhere between the empty gates and the desperate board meetings and the government relief packages, someone in that company looked at the balance sheet and asked a question that changed everything. What is actually worth something here? Not the planes. Planes are assets, yes, but they're also liabilities. They need maintenance, they need fuel, they need crews. A grounded plane is not an asset. It's a cost that keeps running even when it's standing still. Not the routes. Routes have no value without passengers. Not the terminals, not the brand, not the history. The answer, when it finally came, was the one nobody expected. The points. The AAdvantage program. This thing that Bob Crandall invented in 1981 to fill empty seats, had grown into something so large, so deeply embedded in the financial behavior of millions of Americans, that it had become the most credible collateral American Airlines owned. In 2020, American Airlines used the AAdvantage program as collateral to access the government's emergency loan facility, part of the CARES Act. The program was evaluated by independent third parties at somewhere between $19.5 and $31.5 billion. Let that land for a moment. The government of the United States, with all of its analysts, all of its economists, all of its institutional caution, looked to the pile of airline miles and said, "This is real. This is worth real money. We will lend against this." And then in 2021, American Airlines went further. They raised $10 billion in the private market, using the AAdvantage program as collateral. Not the planes, not the real estate, not the routes, the points. $10 billion, backed by miles. Now think about what that means for you, because you're part of that collateral. Every time you swiped your card and earned miles, every time you booked a flight to rack up points, every time you chose American over another carrier because you were trying to protect your status, you were contributing to a financial structure that a bank somewhere decided was worth lending against. You thought you were collecting rewards. You were building collateral. But here's where this story takes a turn that nobody talks about.
American Airlines raised that $10 billion, paid back the government loan, and walked away from the crisis, still carrying one of the heaviest debt loads in the history of commercial aviation. They entered the pandemic with problems. They exited with more of them, just with better financing terms. In 2024, American Airlines reported revenue of $54 billion. $54 billion. And their net profit was $846 million. That sounds like a lot until you compare it to Delta, which made $3.5 billion on less revenue, or United, which made $3 billion. Same sky, same passengers, same credit card partnerships, completely different outcomes. The AAdvantage program saved the company from collapse in 2020. There's no serious argument against that. Without those points as collateral, the financing options were dramatically worse. The program was the bridge. But a bridge gets you across the river. It doesn't tell you what to build on the other side. And that's the part of this story that's still unfolding. Because the points are still there. 115 million members, $6.1 billion in cash compensation from the program in 2024 alone. A new 10-year exclusive deal with Citi, the bank that now runs every AAdvantage credit card in the United States. The program is bigger than ever. The company is still carrying $36.5 billion in debt. And somewhere in that gap, between the most valuable loyalty program in the sky and an airline that earns almost nothing on $54 billion in revenue, is the real story of what American Airlines has become. Not a broken company, not a failing one. Something stranger than that. A company whose greatest creation no longer belongs entirely to itself. There's a moment in every complex story where you have to step back and look at the whole picture. Not the drama, not the numbers, not the personalities. The structure. Because what American Airlines built, what Bob Crandall accidentally started, and 4 decades of banking relationships finished, is not really a loyalty program anymore. It's a financial ecosystem, and you live inside it. Here's how it actually works. When you apply for an AAdvantage credit card, you're not really signing up with an airline. You're signing up with a bank. Citi, as of 2026, the exclusive issuer. The bank pays American Airlines for the right to give you miles when you spend money. Not just on flights, on groceries, on gas, on your electric bill, on the coffee you bought this morning. Every dollar you spend on that card generates a fraction of a mile, and American Airlines gets paid in real cash for every one of those miles the bank issues. You never boarded a plane. American Airlines still made money. That's the machine inside the machine. In 2024, the AAdvantage program generated $6.1 billion in cash compensation for American Airlines. $6 billion. From a program that started as a way to fill empty seats on Tuesday afternoons. To put that in perspective, American Airlines' total net profit that same year was $846 million. The loyalty program alone generated more than 7 times the company's total profit. Read that one more time. The Miles program made more than 7 times what the airline made, which raises a question that most financial analysts whisper about, but almost nobody says out loud in plain language. Is American Airlines an airline that has a loyalty program? Or is it a loyalty program that happens to operate an airline? Because if you strip away the AAdvantage revenue, if you remove the credit card partnerships, the bank payments, the miles sold to hotels and rental car companies, and every other partner in that ecosystem, what's left is an airline that would be deeply, structurally unprofitable. The planes don't make the money. The points make the money. And the points are made by you every time you swipe. Now, before I go any further, if you've made it this far into this video with me, I want to take a second and say something directly. This channel exists for one reason: to show you the systems that shape your financial life, the ones that work quietly in the background, that most people never see clearly because nobody takes the time to explain them properly. If that's something you want more of, if you want to understand how money actually moves, who's holding it, and why the things we take for granted are often the most sophisticated financial instruments ever built, then I'd like to invite you to subscribe to this channel and join us. Hit that button, turn on notifications, because what we're building here is a library of clarity in a world full of noise. And share this video with 5 people you know who would never look at their miles the same way after watching it. Now, back to the machine. Because here's the part that makes this story genuinely uncomfortable. The Citi deal. The new 10-year exclusive agreement that replaced Barclays in 2026 came with a significant upfront cash payment from Citi to American Airlines. Analysts estimated it in the billions. American Airlines didn't disclose the exact number, but they did confirm it was material enough to affect their financial guidance. A bank paid an airline billions of dollars for the right to give you miles. Think about who's ultimately funding that transaction. It's the people who carry a balance on that credit card every month, the people who pay interest, the people who never quite pay it off completely. The interchange fees collected every time someone swipes, fees that merchants pay and that quietly get embedded in the price of everything you buy. The miles economy is not free. It was never free. The cost is just distributed so widely, so invisibly, across so many transactions and so many people, that it feels free to the person collecting the points. That's the design. That's the genius of it. And depending on how you look at it, that's also the quiet moral ambiguity that sits at the center of this whole story. Crandall built something elegant, something that aligned the interests of airlines, banks, consumers, and merchants in a single system where everyone felt like they were winning. And for a long time, most of them were. But systems this large, systems that touch the financial behavior of 115 million people, don't stay simple. They don't stay elegant. They accumulate weight. They accumulate debt. They accumulate dependencies. American Airlines today is not the company Crandall built. It's not the company that launched the AAdvantage in 1981. It's not even the company that emerged from bankruptcy in 2013. It's something new, something the industry has never quite seen before. A company where the most profitable part of the business is not the business, where the asset that saved the company during the pandemic is now pledged, partially, to the creditors who financed the rescue, where the program that 115 million people trust with their financial loyalty is, in some ways, more bank than airline, and the company that owns it is still trying to figure out what it actually is. $36.5 billion in debt, record revenue, almost no profit. The largest airline in the world by fleet size, and somehow, against all logic, still flying.
Let me leave you with something. Not a conclusion, not a lesson, just something to carry with you. Bob Crandall is in his late 80s now. He built the most sophisticated loyalty ecosystem in the history of commercial aviation. He left the company in 1998. He watched from the outside as the thing he created grew larger than anything he had imagined. He watched it survive 2 bankruptcies. He watched the government accept it as collateral. He watched the bank pay billions for the right to attach its name to it. And the program is still running, every day. Millions of swipes, millions of miles, billions of dollars moving silently through a system that most people interact with, but almost nobody truly sees. There's something in that we're sitting with. We spend a lot of time thinking about what we own, our accounts, our balances, our points, our status levels. We track the numbers, we optimize the categories, We read the fine print, or we mean to, but we almost never ask the deeper question: who owns the system we're participating in? Because here's the quiet truth that this story keeps circling back to. American Airlines does not own the AAdvantage program the way you own something you built with your hands. They own it the way you own a house with a 30-year mortgage. Technically yours, legally yours, but encumbered, pledged, partially promised to someone else in exchange for the money that kept everything running. The creditors who financed the pandemic rescue have claims against it. The bank that paid billions for the exclusive card deal has expectations built into it. The 115 million members have promises made to them inside it. That's not a vulnerability. That's a web. And at the center of that web is something that started as a Tuesday afternoon seat fill strategy in 1981. Think about how quietly the most powerful things are built. Not with announcements, not with press releases, not with grand visions declared in boardrooms. With small decisions, practical ones. Someone looking at half-empty planes and asking, what can we give people that costs us almost nothing, but feels like something real? A mile, 1 mile, multiplied by 4 decades, multiplied by 115 million people, multiplied by every hotel stay, every rental car, every grocery run charged to a co-branded card, becomes $31 billion, becomes a thing that saves a company, becomes more valuable than the company itself. There's a version of this story where you feel angry, where you look at the structure and see something designed to extract value from ordinary people while appearing to give value back, where the interchange fees and the interest payments and the aspirational psychology of points feel like a sophisticated trap dressed up as a reward. There's another version where you feel something closer to awe, where you look at what Crandall accidentally built and recognize it as one of the most elegant alignments of human behavior and financial architecture ever constructed, where the fact that it works, that it actually works at scale for decades, is a kind of genius that deserves acknowledgement, even if it also deserves scrutiny. The truth is probably somewhere in that space between anger and awe. Most true things are. American Airlines is not a villain in this story. It's not a hero either. It's something more interesting than both. It's a mirror. A mirror that shows you how the systems you participate in every day, the ones you barely notice, the ones that feel like background noise, are often the most carefully engineered structures in the modern economy. The airline is struggling. The points are thriving. The man who built the points is in his late 80s and largely forgotten by the people who use the system he created every single day. The system itself doesn't care. It just keeps running. Millions of swipes, millions of miles, billions of dollars, every single day. And somewhere, in an account you probably haven't checked in a while, there are miles with your name on them. Part of a collateral pool that helps save a company you may have never thought much about. Part of a system so large, so quietly embedded in how Americans spend and travel and plan and dream, that even now, knowing everything you know, you'll probably still swipe the card. That's the story of American Airlines. That's the story of the AAdvantage program. That's the story of what a mile is actually worth. If this video made you see something you hadn't seen before, share it with 5 people. Not because I'm asking, because that's what you do when something changes the way you look at the world. Subscribe to this channel. We do this every week. We find the systems hiding in plain sight, the invisible empires that shape your money, your choices, your life, and we show them to you clearly. And leave a comment, not a generic one. Tell me something real. Tell me what shifted for you while you were watching. Or tell me what you want us to look at next. What empire do you want us to open up? Because the next story is already waiting. And I promise you, it's hiding somewhere you've already been.